What's going on, everybody? Tej back again with another video, and today we're talking about my award predictions for the 2022-2023 NFL regular season, because we have made it to week one. Thank the Lord we have reached the NFL regular season. Hopefully you will enjoy today's video. If you do, be sure to hit that like button. It helped me out a ton. If you're new around here, want to see more sports content like what you see in today's vid, just hit that big red subscribe button. And give me your award picks. Who's your pick for MVP, comeback player of the year, coach of the year, offensive, defensive rookie of the year, all that fun stuff. Love to have your thoughts, and I respond to every comment. So let's make this a conversation down below. One final plea in housekeeping before we get started. Again, it helps my channel out a ton if you hit that like button. That's what brings new people to the channel. It's what helps the algorithm. And realistically, I just want this channel to be a community hub to talk about football and talk about sports. So you hitting that like button brings new people in the community, and it would mean the world to me if you did that. Also, like 75% of people who view my videos are not subscribed. So if you find yourself coming back, like what you see, seriously, hit that big red subscribe button. That too would help the algorithm, but it would also mean the world to me. My pleas aside, let's start talking about these awards. Starting with comeback player of the year. Most of these are going to be kind of chalky. I did throw the bet odds in there just in case you're like, hey, whatever, I'll sprinkle a little something. There are a few awards where my third inclusion is something I like more from the betting perspective than truly a prediction. So there's a little bit of a betting element in here, but primarily I'm going straight up for predictions, not value here. But Michael Thomas, right now, my comeback player of the year pick. If Jameis Winston's healthy, with what we saw last year, I'm optimistic that, I'm not saying he's totally gotten rid of, the Jameis isms where, 30 touchdowns, 30 picks, but maybe he's gained enough, decision-making ability to where he's not forking over the defense 30 times in a year. And again, more possessions, longer possessions, that bodes well for Michael Thomas, but also reports are he's looking really good in training camp. Take that for, the grain of salt that it's worth. It's training camp, not the regular season, but don't forget about what he was the last time we saw him. He was, the most statistically proficient wideout that year. Last time we saw him on a full season, that is, at least. So I don't see where that goes away. And if anything, Jameis Winston, his arm, and adding Chris Olave and that deep threat to the offense was not something that defenses really had to respect that year that Thomas goes crazy, and you have Drew Brees, whose arm had definitely deteriorated by that point in his career. So if anything, the field might be more open for Michael Thomas to eat up underneath and in the intermediate parts of the field. Derrick Henry at 2, that one's pretty obvious. A lot of people I've talked to, and a lot of sports medicine and just doctors in general, and some of the reports I've seen on Twitter and people I listen to, all that fun stuff. The injury doesn't seem to be a major concern, so he's easily the best part of that Titans offense, and he's the thing that I would force feed if I were the Titans. So I think there's going to be a lot of volume, and, he's still a freak. And if he's healthy, then, yeah, he's a pretty good candidate for comeback player of the year. And then lastly, Baker Mayfield. I kind of put it down there on the screen. Baker with a chip, and like a legitimate chip, not like him just being petty about something. It's kind of scary, because even when he's kind of being petty about something and he uses that as motivation, he can be scary. So a legitimate motivating factor behind his game, I'm interested to see that. And then plus, if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, he has DJ Moore, he has Robbie Anderson, he has Terrence Marshall Jr., a second-round pick from a year ago. There was weapons around him. My concern for that is Ben McAdoo, but maybe, kind of like last year where eventually Zach Taylor just gives the keys over to Joe Burrow, maybe Ben McAdoo will be wise enough to say, like, hey, Baker, we're just going to let you run this show, especially with how good of a receiver CMC is. We can still get him touches and have him be a part of the offense, but not necessarily through handing it off. But that being said, Matt Rule did fire Joe Brady last year because he wanted to run the ball more. So there's no guarantee that happens. I digress. Let's move on to offensive rookie of the year. Very chalky here with Breece Hall. Good offensive line. Even with Mekhi Becton going down, Dwayne Brown comes in the building. That interior, adding a Laken Tomlinson. Also, it's Mike LaFleur. It's a disciple of that Shanahan wide zone running scheme. So they're going to get some numbers advantages on the edge. And just a 3-down running back. So, whether it's him getting the ball in the backfield on early downs, or if it's him staying on the field and being a pass catcher, I think there's value and volume for him one way or the other. So I think that 3-down production behind a good offensive line, it kind of paves a pretty clear path to him winning this award. Romeo Dobbs. This is, considering, I could have gone George Pickens. He's right around the same draft value. Sky Moore playing that Kansas City offense. The reason I went with Dobbs specifically because I thought about Pickens and Sky Moore, but George Pickens is going to have to share a target load with Deontay Johnson, who just got an extension. They're going to want to feed him the football. And Chase Claypool, who's getting close to a contract extension being needed, or Pittsburgh having the decision to make him or let him walk. So they're going to want to see him and what he can do with passes from Trubisky or Pickett. And then for Sky Moore, target share with Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed there. So, but Romeo Dobbs, if he's the number one for Aaron Rodgers, his competition's, aging Sammy Watkins, raw Christian Watson, and then Alan Lazard, whose best skill set for that offense is his run blocking. I feel a lot better about Romeo Dobbs becoming a number one target share type of guy and having a clear edge over whoever number two may be. No guarantee this happens, but also that vertical, route tree, something he did a ton at Nevada, and him and Carson Strong had awesome chemistry. So I could see that translating, and another guy with a big arm and a beautiful deep spiral. I can see Dobbs and Rodgers, recreating a lot of that magic just at the NFL level. So also at plus 1,100, not terrible value, but not great either. And then Kenny Pickett. It's a quarterback's award typically. I know Jamar Chase won it last year. Don't beat me over the head with that, I know. But, for the most part, it's a QB's award. So he's got a relatively clear path to field as well. I could see, after, especially with how good he's looked this preseason, if any sign of Mitch Trubisky struggling, I could see Kenny Pickett being thrusted onto the field. And he's got good weapons around him. Again, George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Najee Harris out of the backfield, Pat Freiermuth in year 2. The question mark's going to be the offensive line, but the skill position around Kenny Pickett are really, really solid. So totally a top 3 candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. On the defensive side, I got to go with Aiden Hutchinson here. He was the most pro-ready guy, in my opinion, coming into this draft. Him or Sauce Gardner, who I have it too. But typically, this is an award for the guy with the most sacks. So again, I'm kind of cheating here, going with Hutchinson. And a clear path to the field, where the Lions, I do like the Aquara brothers, and they also drafted Josh Pascal. But he's got inside-out versatility, so maybe on passing situations, Pascal's taking someone like an Aleem McNeil off the field in that interior spot. I just have a hard time thinking Hutchinson's not going to be on the field as much as humanly possible, right? Like the story, Michigan kid, plays for the Wolverines, now he's playing for the Lions, that plus his on-field production, how good of a player and how NFL ready he was coming out of Michigan, all that, I think you're going to see a whole lot of Aiden Hutchinson on the field, and therefore I think the production will follow suit. Then Sauce Gardner, really good this, preseason, which again you have to take for a grain of salt, but could be the number one corner in a defense that I think is going to take a substantial step forward. It could be that number one corner for Robert Saleh defense, which think about Richard Sherman, and a lot of people were saying Sauce Gardner kind of has those isms, but a little bit of a better athlete. So there's a lot to like, and the situation around Sauce Gardner, I think it's a really, really good one. I think he is a perfect fit for what Robert Saleh wants in a boundary corner. But that being said, it's not like he has a Bosa on the other side. Like I go back to Nnamdi Asomugha when he was playing with the Raiders and how he never saw the ball come his way because the opposite corner was just not good. They spent $10 million a year on DJ Reed, and Bryce Hall, I think they need to get better there, but he's fine. He's solid. I'm not saying he's trash. So the fact that the other corners in the mix are respectable, teams will eventually have to try to challenge Sauce Gardner, which, bodes well for the ball production, pass breakups, maybe some interceptions as well. So a lot of different factors there, but, Sauce Gardner being the number one shutdown corner and the step forward I think you'll see from the Jets on that side of the ball, it's going to be relatively substantial. So all that bodes for a really nice resume for Sauce. And then Jaquan Brisker. This is one where it's like the betting perspective is a little more hot to me than like the actual play, because I could just go with, Trevon Walker or Jordan Davis if I really wanted to, or Nakobe Dean, I guess. Jaquan Brisker is the safety where, one, Matt Eberflus's defense, we just saw Kari Willis and Julian Blackmon become, I don't want to say household names, but become a legitimate, nice, top of the league type of safety duo, and they both racked up stats in a variety of areas. So if we're going to see a lot of cover 2, a lot of split safety, Jaquan Brisker is going to get a lot of tackles. And he's a hard hitter. He might force a couple fumbles. He might pick up a couple. And again, he's going to be a factor in coverage. He's an awesome athlete. He has good coverage instincts as well. So he'll get ball production. He'll get some pass breakups. He'll probably come away with a couple interceptions. So this is a sneaky guy where it's like, I think the stat sheet might be so stuffed and well-rounded to where it's like, yeah, not a whole lot went right for Chicago, but Jaquan Brisker's numbers are hard to ignore. There's your defensive rookie of the year. Now, again, I'm feeling a lot better about Hutchinson and Sauce, but plus 5,000, I could see Jaquan Brisker, especially you compare him to a Jordan Davis, where the value is so much more on the side of Brisker. Like Jordan Davis is one of one, Planet Theory. There's not much like him, but he's in a rotation with Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, Fletcher Cox, Marlon Tuipulotu. Like there's other guys in that spot. Jaquan Brisker is starting at safety. As long as he's healthy and, if Eddie Jackson goes down, then, there's that much more for Brisker to, cover and that much more on his plate. So I don't know. I think he's a kind of a sneaky pick there, and at plus 5,000, pretty solid value. Anyways, moving on, Offensive Player of the Year, I got to go with Justin Jefferson here. I think, and we'll talk about Kevin O'Connell later, a more aggressive, approach to the offense, maximizing possessions, going for more fourth downs, passing it more on early down situations, not rolling over and die on third and longs and just running a draw, which the Vikings, I felt like every time I was watching, that's what I saw at least once a week. So I think that's, and what Kevin O'Connell might be able to get that extra oomph out of Kirk Cousins, all that bodes well for Justin Jefferson. And, it's going to be interesting to see who plays that Cooper Kupp role where Kupp did so much underneath. That kind of fits Thielen. But at the same time, if I had one wide receiver in that building, I'd want to pepper with targets. It's Justin Jefferson. So it'll be interesting to see how they mix both those. I think you might see a little bit of both, honestly, in that Cooper Kupp role. But when it comes to getting down the field and creating big plays, and also Justin Jefferson, as much as I give him credit for being a deep threat, that dude was unbelievable as an intermediate threat. Like that 10 to 20 yard range, he was getting chunk plays left, right, and center last year. So I think you'll see more of that, more deep plays, maximize possessions again with Kevin O'Connell in the building. So I'm excited to see this year. And also he's already like a top 3 wide receiver in the league, in my opinion. So he's already just a good football player, which is the first box you need to check. Jonathan Taylor, best player on that offense. He'll have a ton of volume, especially where, Matt Ryan is, kind of shaky this offseason. The arm is definitely going to take a hit. He is playing in a dome, which helps. But also just like lack of bona fide superstar talent on the outside at wide receiver. You may like Michael Pittman. You may be encouraged by Alec Pierce, but there's no Devontae Adams or, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. There's no guy on the outside. It's just like a okay unit with, Pittman Jr. being an intriguing and a decent piece in the mix. But Jonathan Taylor is the heart and soul of that offense. And behind us, still pretty good offensive line. And if anything, left tackle is going to be more important to the quarterback play than, Jonathan Taylor, power scheme, running up the middle. So this guy's going to get a ton of volume. He might be the best pure runner in the NFL. He's got a good offensive line in front of him. I mean, the case is set right there. And then CeeDee Lamb. This is another one of those value plays where, like, you could go Jamar Chase. I think he was at, like, plus 1,200. And it's like, yeah, Jamar Chase might be a better wide receiver. I think, based off last year, I think you could make that argument. But that being said, like, Jamar Chase, going back to the target share, component of this, you got to feed T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd's going to want some looks. Hayden Hurst there at tight end. Joe Mixon's a factor in the past game. Meanwhile, for CeeDee Lamb, especially when Michael Gallup's hurt, he is the dude. And he's a legitimate number 1 wide receiver, and it's a pass-happy offense. Like, Kellen Moore is going to do any and all things he can to get CeeDee Lamb the football, and especially as a guy who can work extremely efficiently out of the slot, get him away from press coverage. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that Kellen Moore and Dak Prescott can do with CeeDee Lamb, and I think he'll put up some gaudy numbers. And then even just kind of the timing of it, where like maybe he'll dominate for the first 4 to 6 weeks, and then Michael Gallup comes back. So right as defenses are like, all right, we got to start double teaming CeeDee. We got to take him away. The Cowboys get their next best wide receiver back, healthy, and if he has a couple big games, forces defenses to play honest, we're right back where we started the year, where CeeDee is just cooking left, right, and especially in the slot. I think there's just plenty of advantageous matchups for him to eat up in. So at plus 4,000, I might like Jamar Chase a little bit better if I were just to start a franchise right now. But from the betting perspective and also the target perspective, offensive player of the year, yeah, I'll go with CeeDee there. Moving on, next up, defensive player of the year. I'm going to go with Nick Bosa. I think it's going to be one of the best defenses in the NFL, and he's kind of aided by the fact that on the other side, Samson Ebukam and Drake Jackson, who I think could create a nice, rotation between the two and be a nice, put together other edge rusher opposite of Nick Bosa. But that being said, Nick Bosa is the best finisher on that team. There's an old Alec Baldwin movie, always be closing. It's one of his quotes. Nick Bosa is the closer when it comes to that pass rush. So, and Eric Armstead's really good too. But I think he could be the guy. And then also San Francisco plays a fair share of primetime games. They're in the playoff mix. They might win the division. So some of these surrounding circumstances are definitely there where there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. The team's going to be good. They're known for their defense, especially if Trey Lance struggles. The rhetoric's going to build that they have an explosive offense. They have moments. They have weeks where the offense puts up points, but then it's that defense that all in all carries them. I can already read it on ESPN. So Nick Bosa being the guy that is the most talented dude on that defense. Maybe that's up for a debate with him, Fred Warner, for taking away position eligibility. I digress. I'm going down a tangent. I think Nick Bosa is going to be the headline superstar on one of the best defenses in football, so he's my pick right now to win Defensive Player of the Year. Aaron Donald, best defensive player in the league, and if you're taking away position value, which might be legitimately the best player in the league, so duh. And then Micah Parsons. So I thought about Myles Garrett here, but with the Deshaun Watson suspension being at 11 games, it's going to be tough in a loaded AFC for the Browns to make the playoffs. And I do think that is an important qualification here, or at least get close. So we'll have to wait and see with the Browns, but totally, this could be the year for Myles Garrett. So honorable mention, kind of like how last year was like, all right, TJ Watt, Defensive Player of the Year. He was due. Like, it was about time he got that. I could see Myles Garrett having a similar thing where it's like, yeah, we've been giving so many defensive player of the year awards to Aaron Donald. Last year, Watt got his. Now let's give Garrett his, and then we can go back to giving it to Aaron Donald or something. But Micah Parsons on a defense where you lose a Randy Gregory, sure, yeah. Sam Williams has been impressive in camp, and there's some pass rush upside there. There's a rookie out of Ole Miss, but that defense, all in all, I think is going to regress. Also, like where you lose Randy Gregory, just naturally, I don't think Trevon Diggs is going to get 11 interceptions, right? So even if he gets better in coverage, you're talking about less turnovers, more time your defense is on the field. I think Micah Parsons is going to have to be Superman this year. I think he's going to have to do that much more if that side of the ball is not going to regress statistically, right? And if they don't, then that means Micah Parsons' numbers are going to be bonkers. He'll have the total tackles, the tackles for loss, the sacks. He'll have some ball production because he is good in coverage. He's a good, smooth athlete and a smooth mover. If the Cowboys statistically don't regress, Micah Parsons, give that man a cape, put the S on his chest. He's Superman. And if that's the case, then I could totally see him being someone who's in that defensive player of the year conversation. And I could see the Cowboys, to me, you'll have to wait for my updated record predictions, but the Cowboys and the Vikings are the two teams I see fighting for that 7th seed. And if Dallas gets in and Parsons is Superman, it's going to be hard to ignore. But even if they're a game out, even if they miss that spot, maybe his play is still strong enough to get him that award. Let's move on. Coach of the year. If you've been following my preseason videos, you know I'm pretty high on the Eagles. And part of that is I think they have a well-balanced roster with good depth. Jalen Hurts has done nothing but take small steps forward, so I have no reason to anticipate that ending. You added A.J. Brown, added James Bradbury on the other side, and they have the second easiest schedule in the NFL. So I see a roster that improved, is well-rounded as a whole, has depth, both specifically on the offensive and defensive line where injuries are bound to occur, and they have an easy schedule. This team, if they don't win, like I had to be careful saying this, but I have them right now at that 12-13 win mark, and I'm going to be kind of surprised if they don't get there. Now, again, granted, I have to be careful here because drop a couple games that they should have won and they're 10-7, so double-digit wins I think is absolutely should be the expectation for the Eagles, but 12-13 I absolutely think is in play, not because I think they're the best team in the NFC. Easy schedule, well-balanced roster. Pittsburgh 2 years ago was not a 12-4 team. The Cardinals should not have been the last undefeated team last year. The NFL's weird. The schedule is a huge part of the equation here, and the Eagles have a very easy one. So I could see Nick Sirianni with a 12-13 win type of year being the front runner, and that's why I have him as my coach of the year candidate. Also, if that offense is super efficient, you think about that Thursday Night Football loss to the Bucs and how the offense pivoted to be very run heavy. If, Nick Sirianni has a couple of in-season adjustments and A.J. Brown looks great and Devonta Smith shines in year 2, I can just see enough offensive hype around this team. Hurts continues to get better, blah, blah, blah. All that builds up, giving credit to Nick Sirianni, and again, he becomes the coach of the year. Then Kevin O'Connell, it's a very close second. I do think it's going to come from the NFC side because it's just a little bit more open when it comes to the playoff race, and if Kevin O'Connell's going to win this, the Vikings would have to make the playoffs. So, if Green Bay really struggles with the wide receiver position, the offense is stagnant, gets out to a really slow start, there's a midseason lull, depending on, how much O'Connell gets out of Cousins and if the defense can be just serviceable enough, maybe Minnesota can steal the division. Right now, I think it's at like plus 260, maybe not enough value there for me to bet it, but it's kind of an intriguing prop. I'm still going to roll with Green Bay for right now, but I think the Vikings could make it interesting, which again just furthers the case for why Kevin O'Connell could be the coach of the year, but a chance to maximize an offense that already has a ton of talent, right? You're talking about a top 3 wide receiver and Adam Thielen on the other side who's still really darn good. And you're talking about Kirk Cousins, a top half, top 16 starter for sure in the NFL. Can you do something similar where McVay got a little bit more out of, Stafford specifically in that playoff push? So if Kevin O'Connell has, Kirk Cousins play big or play really well in big games, that's just going to feed the rhetoric for him being that big of a difference maker, especially if it's on national television. It'll make enough of a boost in the rhetoric around Kevin O'Connell to give him coach of the year. And then, like I said, it's an open NFC. So if the Vikings get in the playoffs, that's going to be another nice bullet point to his resume. And then lastly, Sean McDermott. I mean, this is kind of easy. It's kind of a little surprising that he's at plus 18. Now, granted, all these coach of the year odds are pretty long shot, but he's the head coach for maybe the best roster in the AFC, while the AFC has just gone full Cold War arms race. If they finish with the number 1 seed, it's going to be hard not to give this award to Sean McDermott. And honestly, if they finish the year with the best record, like let's say the Bills go 15-2 and the Bucs are 14-3, if they have the best overall record, Again, it's going to be hard not to give this award to Sean McDermott. He's been one of the best head coaches in the NFL. I love that organization, both the coaching staff, but also Brandon Beane in the front office. Everything they do is so sound and smart. And even with the situation with punt god himself, Matt Araiza. Even just that, it's bigger than football. Brandon Beane everything he does, it just feels smart, and a lot of that is with Sean McDermott too. Like a lot of the in-game decisions, I'm just like, yeah, it makes sense. And he maximizes game scripts, and I think he puts that team in a great position to win. And I think he does a lot with the defense too. So again, last year, #1 defense in EPA per play. If the Bills are anywhere close to that again this year, yeah, it's gonna be hard to take this award away from Sean McDermott. I digress. Let's move on to MVP. Sorry, I had to. I am like the #1. I'm like the head of the Josh Allen fan club. So, yeah, he's going to be my preseason pick for MVP. I think this is the year for the Bills. I got him to win the Super Bowl this year. That's part of why I didn't put Sean McDermott as my coach of the year. I'm not trying to go too heavy with my Bills love this year, but the roster's great. It's a pass-happy offense. Yes, Brian Daboll's gone, but Ken Dorsey was the QB coach. I think you're going to see more of the same. You add a legitimate, speed element into the backfield where Singletary and Zach Moss can catch the football, but none of those guys are 4.4 dudes. So James Cook, that long speed, makes you respect the run game that much more, but he's also a factor in the pass game. And, adding that speed after the catch, that's a nice element. Gabe Davis seems like he's poised for a year 3 breakout, making that offense that much more legit. And then you look at the slot, and whether it's Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder, or Khalil Shakir, I'm cool with whoever is starting at slot if it's one of those 3 guys. I am good with it one way or the other. The offensive line's not great, but it's solid enough. Like, again, the scheme, the weapons, and the trust in Josh Allen and him being the face of this franchise, yeah. This guy feels like a pretty clear-cut MVP candidate, and that's why, he's the leader in the odds. I'm not, treading new earth here. And Justin Herbert, again, not a surprise here. Mahomes, same thing. I'm not reinventing the wheel. Herbert has weapons around him. It's just going to come down to overcoming Joe Lombardi or Herbert becoming more aggressive and doing more within the Lombardi offense / Lombardi becoming more aggressive as a play caller and drawing up plays that takes advantage of Herbert's arm and some of the wide receiver talent they do have. The offensive line, 4/5 the way there. I'm still holding out hope they sign a right tackle, Darrell Williams or someone like that, to complete that project. And he's already been piling up stats. I was literally just watching the game. He's got like the most 300-plus yard passing games the last 2 years, more than Aaron Rodgers, the back-to-back time MVP winner. So the numbers are already there. The stats are not the problem. The Chargers need to make the playoffs. Like, honestly, if they made the playoffs last year, I'm not sure he wins it, but considering how open it was for the majority of the year, if the Chargers were clear-cut going to make the playoffs, I think Herbert probably gets his name further in the mix, and that's just kind of what I anticipate this year. Chargers are a playoff team. Herbert continues to put up big numbers. They play a lot of primetime games, and Herbert is in that MVP conversation. And then lastly, sticking in that same division, all AFC guys too, which part of the reason I think that breaks out, it wasn't anything I did consciously, but the AFC's loaded to where, I think Coach of the Year, NFC, it's a little easier for those coaches to get in because it's like, hey, my team made the playoffs. The MVP, like, if you're the quarterback that leads your team to the #1 seed in the loaded AFC, put that at the top of the resume. Like, that bullet point is awesome, and that's going to go a long way in, changing the minds of voters or furthering, their points on why you should be the MVP. So, lastly, we'll get you out of here. Pat Mahomes, I mean, quote-unquote, a bounce-back opportunity because last year was the most disappointing, I guess you could say Mahomes has been, but still, look at the box score stats. They're still stupid. So, losing Tyreek Hill, too, like, if this offense is top 5 in the league in EPA, yards, points per game, whatever metric you find the most important, if they're top 5 in that without Tyreek Hill, and like Patrick Mahomes is maximizing Juju Smith-Schuster, and Travis Kelce continues to be great, and Sky Moore looks like a steal as a second round, if Patrick Mahomes facilitates all that, yeah, he's going to be in the MVP mix. So, yeah, got to be somebody I include on this list. And if we're taking a 3-year sample size, he's been the most impressive and most talented quarterback in the league. Give me flack down in the comment section if you disagree. But over the last 3 years, I think he's got the most impressive sample in that time. So, should definitely be a guy who's in the MVP conversation. But that's going to do it for my 2022-2023 NFL award predictions. Tell me what you think down below in the comments section. Where am I wrong? Do you think I'm spot on with any of these picks? Do you like some of the betting values maybe? Love to have your thoughts. I respond to just about every comment. So let's talk about these picks down below in the comments section. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video, and seriously, it would help me out a ton if you hit that like button and you did enjoy today's video. And if you're new around here, want to see more football content like what you saw today, just hit that big red subscribe button and join the fun. And that's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej. I'm signing off.